Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's our biggest day of the year here at PAC 14. We have a lot of big ones, but of the 52, this is the biggest one. We welcome back Phil Tilghman. Welcome, Phil.
You use big in association with me.
Phil, you look like you've lost 100 pounds.
I have. I've lost 32 pounds.
32 pounds.
Yeah, I feel great.
Now, you were, like last time we talked to you, you were about to have knee surgery, but you lost enough weight that you didn't need the knee surgery anymore.
Well, I should have the other knee done, but I'll even quit eating to not go through that mess again. It's tough. It's a long. It takes you about a year, really, to recuperate from knee surgery.
So you're here because the biggest question I get from people is, how's Phil? Where's Phil? When will Phil be back and take his show back?
Well, Phil's not coming back, but I appreciate the invitation to come
Yes.
in today and talk. At this time of year, it's a great time of year, Christmas.
Yes.
Holidays coming up, and my granddaughters are home from college, and the kids are all going to be here and all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice time of year.
So you're not going away?
Not going away. No, we're going back to Florida. We were in Florida in November for about 10 days. We actually went to the Villages. What a unique, interesting place that is. There's 100,000 people who are 60 and older.
Right.
Most of them look like they were older than me. I felt like a young guy there. And they're tooling around in these golf cars, you know, that are all souped up and everything, and you can drive anywhere in the Villages in a golf car. You even go to Walmart or whatever. And so we were there for 5 or 6 days, played a little golf, and then we went over to Sarasota, and that's where we're going back to Sarasota in late February, so we can see if there's any Orioles left to play.
Right, exactly.
At Ed Smith Stadium, which is where they do their spring training.
That's a nice place there.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. We've been there. We've gone there. Well, we were there the first year it opened. I love to tell everybody one year, Don Ewald and I went. And we're sitting there in the stands, and Chris Davis comes up. He struck out 3 times and hit a home run. I said, there's a prelude to his season right there.
Right.
And it was interesting. The one he hit, I think it's still in flight, to tell you the truth. He hit it so far. But it's very intimate. It's like the Shorebird Stadium, which is a great stadium.
Right.
I know the county's done some upgrades to that.
Yeah, they've made it really nice, and they've got some stuff in the works that are going to be really cool.
Yeah.
They're going to put a walkway all the way around it, so you'll be able to stand like in center field and look down and see the game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Neat.
Yeah. Now the Villages, I love the Villages because they have the highest newspaper penetration in America. Like 98% of the people who live there read the newspaper.
Well, you know why?
Well, they're that age, yeah.
Well, and they give it away.
Do they give it away?
Yeah, they have their own publisher, newspaper right there. That thing is thicker on a daily basis than the Sun papers is on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, or the New York Times almost. It's every single day.
Tremendous readership.
Yeah, and they have their own radio station. It's kind of unique. It really is. I don't want to move there or anything like that. But,
it's nice to visit.
It's nice to visit, yeah, like a lot of other places. Like Wycomico County is a great place to live and visit. And when we travel, we're always ready to come back home. We really are, because we love it here. Of course, our kids are here, too.
We love to talk about politics.
Yeah.
What are you seeing out there? You were on the county council for 50 years, 55 years?
16 years.
16 years. You were the council president.
Yeah.
And back then, that's
a long time ago.
That person ran the county. You did that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question now that we have the county executive form of government. Why do we need 7 county council members?
That's a good question.
And could we have just five districts? You know, the reason we had, when we created the minority district, and I was there, we had to go to court.
Right.
Anyway.
You actually created it, but you still had to go to court.
Well, we created the minority district, but then the inexcusable things as far as the Justice Department, we added 2 at-large seats.
Right. So they thought you watered it down.
Yes. So instead of 20%, that's the population.
Right.
It was whatever 1/7 is.
Right.
And so anyway, but we went to federal court and we won our case, and it's been that way ever since. And of course, now they're doing the school board in a similar, somewhat similar manner. And nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying they want to economize. And currently, there seems to be for the want of a better word, a power struggle between the county executive office and the county council as a whole.
Right.
And, you know, if Bob Culver says this, then this group over here is going to say, I don't think so, you know. And this whole thing about Warwick and the tuition at Warwick, which
this is the Warwick Scholarship Plan.
Which is a terrific...
It's an economic development initiative to try to get people trained.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got Ray Hoy written all over it, and he's one of our favorite people.
Right.
And one of the tremendous assets of this county is not just Warwick, but the fact that Ray Hoy is leading the charge out there. And it is an economic development tool. It's already successfully done in Garrett County. Now, admittedly, Garrett County has that tax base out there with Deep Creek Lake that pays the tariff, and they have very few, their population's one of the least populated areas year-round. But still, here's these people, it's already proven 90% of them who go to Warwick are going to stay here, work here, have a family here, and contribute to the tax base here.
So the program was going to be any high school graduate, in Wycomico County high school graduate, would be able to go to Warwick for free.
Yep.
And the county would subsidize their tuition. They had to qualify or at least apply for every possible grant or other scholarship first. But then the county council set an income limit on it, which kind of made it different.
They screwed it up. That's what they did. Really, you know, Ray Hoy says, wait a minute, you're putting these conditions on there, and the conditions are diametrically opposed to the goal that we started out to achieve.
Right.
You know, which is have these people be trained training local people for local jobs. You know, that's what it is.
And lately they've talked about lowering the salary threshold, which would eliminate more people. But even more importantly, they want to raise the grade point average for qualification to 2.5.
Yeah. Well, let's see. How can we kill this program and just make it not work? We can put all these conditions on it and make it not work. And I've heard the arguments, and none of them hold water as far as I'm concerned. I think it ought to. If you graduate from a Bennett or Parkside or Mardella or wherever, and you've tried to you got all the other possible grants, if you're low income or whatever, then go on out there, take the courses.
Right.
You know, be done with it.
And you were part of the group that identified the problem and helped build Warwick.
Warwick was actually a couple years before I got elected, and it was Frank Morris and the Greater Salisbury Committee really is, and they went around and they found Arnold Maynor and brought him in here, and they used to brag about the fact that it was a college without walls because they didn't have any walls to brag about.
They were holding classes in shopping centers all over.
Everywhere. And then finally, actually, I was on the site selection committee with Frank Morris, and we had a guy from, I've forgotten his name now, from Worcester County. And Frank Morris would say, Arnold, we can meet, but I have to be in my office at Sure Distributors by 9 o'clock. So we go in at 7 o'clock in the morning, have breakfast, and talk about, and we had several sites, but the key was to find something that was in Wycomico County, but on the east side of Wycomico County, so that the Worcester folks would not feel like they had to travel too far.
Right.
And we came up with that piece of land out there, which actually Madeline Purdue owned.
Okay.
And the state went into negotiations, which was very easy to buy from her. And so the rest is history. It's what an asset that is. Every time I come by there, I'm just, especially if you come at night,
right?
And the cars are everywhere.
There's so many people
lit
there.
Up and
yeah.
I thought it was the ugliest school in the world when first with those blonde
right.
bricks.
Right.
But now that they have the green in with it,
right.
It's really an attractive school and a key asset to us, I think.
And I remember being opposed to the location because it was so far out of town. I thought they should develop in Salisbury. But where I used to live in Quantico, the distance from my house in Quantico to Warwick is the same distance as Warwick to Ocean City.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the halfway point, which is really surprising.
Yeah. Interestingly, when they first started shore transit, one of the first runs was from Salisbury out to Warwick. That was and still is. You know, if you don't have transportation, you can get on public transportation, which is another asset. The shore transit is that started out as medical transportation and elderly transportation. It's interesting because the late Bill Carey and I were on the county council. We're sitting there. How come we have an executive director sitting here and a secretary and an office for the elderly transit, and then another guy over here and a secretary for the and Dr. Sensenbrenner said, well, the state says you have to do that. So I looked at Bill Carey. I said, put them in the same office. Just, we had to supply the office space. The county did. We put them in the same office. It was less than a couple of weeks. The one of them left, and we just never found it in our hearts to hire another one, and it worked. And it's a very success. And of course, then if you came from Deal Island, as soon as you hit the Wycomico County line, you had to get off that Somerset County ride,
right,
and pick up a ride from Wycomico, which didn't make any sense at all. So,
right.
And when they created shore transit, it's amazing how things evolve into something that we expect and is good for the county. It's good for our economy.
To me, the key word is opportunity. So that scholarship program is about having the opportunity to go to school, and shore transit provides you an opportunity to get a job if you don't have a car.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back from Ocean City or Pocomoke to Salisbury, it's very easy to do.
Yeah. Ocean City loves shore transit because they bring workers over there every morning and they have a hard time finding enough people to take care of all the 250,000 people over there on a big weekend in Ocean City. So
right.
Speaking of Ocean City, way back when I was on the county council and on the airport commission, and we needed a control tower because the planes were coming in here and they were being directed by Patuxent.
Right.
And Vic Laws used to say, who flew a little bit, the elder Vic.
And this is
Laws,
before GPS and all that stuff. No one knew where the planes were.
Yeah.
They were on radar, but yeah.
People thought the Eastern Shore, they didn't even think we had electricity over here, you know what I mean? But we had this airport, this great thing. So anyway, I think we had $150,000 or $200,000 in the reserve fund at the airport. And the county was willing to put some money. We didn't want to bond it. We wanted to just build it and pay for it. So I called my good friend, the president of the Worcester County Commissioner, Jim Barrett. And
I miss him.
I know. What a great guy. I said, Jim, and we had become really good friends. And I said, we're trying to do this, and it seems like to me it's an opportunity for Worcester and Ocean City as much as it is for Wycomico. I agree with you, Phil. And he said, let me talk to Granville. Granville Trimper then was county councilman, but he's former mayor of Ocean City.
Right.
So at the next meeting, Granville Trimper said, I make the motion we donate $100,000 toward the control tower at the Wycomico, the Salisbury Ocean City Airport.
So they paid $100,000 for the name.
Exactly. You know. Well, it's the Christmas season, and but politics seems to, boy, it really is inundating our lives now. When you national politics, good golly, it's.
Well, think about this locally. If you count the courthouse offices and the school board and the delegates, senator, there are 34 seats in this next election. Do we have 34 people around here who are qualified to serve in government in an elected capacity?
I don't know.
Actually, if you throw the judges in, there's 2 judges up, so it's 36.
Yeah. Well, they're
Right.
unopposed.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a problem. I remember when I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, and Ron Alessi and I'm the Democrat and he was a Republican, and we were trying to beat the Bushes to get candidates for city council.
Right.
And we talked a couple of people into it, and then they went and talked to their families and came back and said, no, we don't want to do that. It's tough.
Yeah.
And then you have the blogs.
Right.
And if they think you think you're qualified, they'll tell their readers that you aren't qualified,
right,
because your father-in-law is so-and-so or whatever. Yeah, people don't want to put themselves through that.
Yeah.
You know, it was cleaner, I think, when I was in office. All I had to do was stand next to Henry Parker and say, yeah, I'd like to be a county council. I was only 43 years old when I ran the first time. And we all ran at large.
Right.
And we went to all the fire companies, and we educated ourselves about tax ditches and the county budget. And, you know, that's every year the president of the county council went to the Greater Salisbury Committee and gave an annual report.
Right.
Did the same thing with the Chamber of Commerce, and it was good government.
Yeah.
It really was. There was only 5 of us. And
that's true. Yeah.
It was only 5, and we all ran at large, and it seemed like it just ended up there would be somebody from the west side, somebody from the east side, and then 3 of us from the core.
Right.
I'll say. I never lived in the city.
Right.
But I lived in the core, the urban core, and my business was in the urban core. But it was 16 interesting years, and I didn't enjoy the last 4.
We don't need 7 councilmen anymore with the executive, but if you kind of poll the council members, the 7 council members, they think they don't need an executive.
Well, that's true. And there could be some arguments for that. I did not support the county executive plan. Vic Laws was always big for that.
Right.
And a couple other council people who had served on the charter review, and it had been talked about. Scott Robertson was somebody else was on it, and they had talked about doing this for a long time, and finally it was put on the ballot, and the voters agreed that maybe if there's one person that's right there every day, because when we were there, when it was a council, it was a part-time job.
Right.
And my argument was we would do the legislative part 4 times a year. We'd have a 10-day set-aside. We'd sit down and hear the bills, introduce the bills one time, have a 10-day period, have a public hearing, pass the bills, if it was planning and zoning or whatever. I did it 4 times. I said, what are 7 people going to do if there's a county executive? There's not that much legislation, but you know what they say about a vacuum.
Right.
And they seem to stay busy. And for the most part, I know they're all well-meaning people, and they do. I don't mean
and they're
to
all
bust on them,
Republicans. So it's not
almost
a party
all.
thing.
There's
one
Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Poor guy.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because he ended up just yesterday. I think he accidentally voted for something that Bob Culver wanted, and I think he realized that he was going to be the only one that voted for it. I think he backtracked. They didn't have a formal vote. It was just like, what's your all's consensus? And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then like everyone else was like, no, let's not do it. And he's like, that's right, let's not do it. And that was accepting the free land for up to extend Henry Parker Park.
Yeah, yeah. That's that argument. I've watched that a little bit, but anyway, it harkens back to when the county accepted with open space money. We bought the Hershey Farm out there on Whitehaven Road, which was criticized then, and I've heard it criticized over and over. When are you going to do something with that farm? Well, it's waiting for a time when the population warrants doing something with it. And then there's the whole question of the timberland, which is part of that purchase. And that, if you decide you're going to cut one tree out of there, you're going to have the same argument, same groups who argued against extending the Henry Parker Park because we were going to cut a tree down. And
that's an old growth forest there, which there's different rules for that.
My good friend Ace Parker, who's a forester, said you ought to have a 7-year plan for any timber land like that, and selectively harvest. You know, it's a crop,
right?
But that gets anyway. The idea was to do that, and the funding from that then would go to pay for developing a park over on the other side, on the river.
Right.
And it's an 18 feet deep, the water. It's a very good place on the river.
And the county executive wants to do it, but basically build a glorified campground there.
Yeah.
But you could sell that timber and pay for it that way.
Could do. Yeah.
But I don't see it getting any traction.
I don't either.
And having lived right by there, I would have been opposed to it.
So yeah. So if that whole question is here in the wings, then you talk about 100 acres that somebody wants to give to the county, and you say, well, wait a minute, what about that? Anyway, it gets all called up together and fun.
Do you miss it at all?
A little bit. Not really, not much. 16 years was enough. Probably some people might say it was one term too many. And but I talked to other friends. Stevie, I'm sure Stevie misses it in a way, and Tony Parker, I see him every week, and we still talk about it. We have the kind of discussion we're having right now.
Right.
Oh, well, that was stupid. Why did he do that? You know. Well, when I was there, don't you remember? You know, when Ozzy Osbourne. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, all those things. There's a lot of memories there, and memories that I enjoy. But I'm moved on to I'm playing golf 3 times a week. I work out twice a week.
Good.
And very active in the Episcopal Church and the Diocese of Easton. And
some people have stopped sending me stuff because, and I'm not bragging, people see it in the paper and they get such a turnout that they can't accommodate it.
Yeah.
So, example, the Rockawakan Church did not. The pies. They the first year they put it in our paper, they doubled their pies. So they amped up, and then they had sold so many pies at Thanksgiving, they didn't want it in the paper this time because they just couldn't make more pie. They wanted to keep it low.
I get a whole different view of that issue because you've covered it well.
Right.
And you've,
Thank you.
Yeah, doing a good job.
And I run lots of photos because I want people to know there's so much going on here that no one realizes that there's always something to do.
Yeah.
We don't have a boring community. There's always something fun to participate in.
Yeah. I remember one time a president of the school board came to me and he said, we have had a group of local kids go to some national competition and win or place third or whatever in the whole nation. And all these parents went out and they raised money and everything in. They took all these pictures and they brought it back. And the Daily Times instead covered somebody, a home invasion or whatever it was. And they said, well, somehow we're missing this. Well, you're not missing this.
No.
With that sort of thing. Feel-good stories. We all need some feel-good stories.
And they're not made up. It's just things feel good.
Yeah, well, that's right.
We call it refrigerator news, the kind of news that you clip out and put on your refrigerator.
Well, in the political climate that we're in, as a community, we need that. We need things and people that pull us together. And as I said before, aim us all in the same direction. So we're pulling together And as a county and city and the fire service and all the various things that we do with the $140 million that we all pay in taxes if we're in the county.
Right.
If we pay in the city, we're paying twice, we're
Right.
paying more. But we want somebody to give us some direction. And if the direction is positive direction, then I'm all for them. If it's negative, then I'm not for them,
Right.
personally. And that's what we need to do. We need, as Henry Parker used to say, we need to set the stage here. We need to let's figure out where we're going, and then all get on board and go.
Right.
You know, and let's do something. And that's hopefully the Jake Days of the world will continue to step forward and say, you know what, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to put up with the crap that you have to put up with to be a local elected official in order to see my community come together and do good things for the citizens. So
That's a good way to close, Phil. Usually you have a Christmas message that you tell the viewers.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's it's a great. Yesterday I was at the Salvation Army, and it's Vic Tidman's last year.
Yes, he's leaving in May.
He's retiring from the Army May 20th. And he got up and he read the Christmas story out of the Bible. And he said, you know, how many times do you look at that gift under that tree and say, gee whiz, what is that? I'd like to open it. And then go down on Christmas morning and pick it up and then put it on a shelf without opening it. No, none of us do that. And he said, well, the gift that God gave the country, gave the world, is there for you to open. Don't forget to open it.
Wow.
What a neat message that was.
Exactly.
Wow.
God, that gives me goosebumps.
I mean, Vic is a good guy, and I wish him well. I know you've had him on here, and you did an interview in the paper with him. And the Salvation Army is kind of the unsung hero of this.
It's my favorite charity in town.
1,100 kids are going to get Christmas this year because of you and me and the other people taking that dollar or whatever, the coin, and putting in that red kettle. And the Angel Tree Project is an individual. My son did 3 of them.
Right.
And they give you a family, and they don't tell you who it is, no names or anything else. There's a boy who's 8 and a girl who's 12, and here's the things they like, and here's their sizes, by the way. And the family goes out and they buy the gifts as if they're buying for their grandchildren or whatever, and then it gets put in a shopping bag over there, and Purdue gives a oven stuffer, and it's distribution day at the Salvation Army is as heartwarming.
People really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I mean, they don't feel entitled to it. They really appreciate it.
Yeah. And there's a very good screening process that the majors do. I mean, they start in July, taking applications for that. So anyway, to you and to Tom Taylor and all the PAC-14 viewers and family, Merry Christmas. It's nice to be. Thanks for inviting me.
No, thanks for coming back.
I had to put a tie on and everything. Gee whiz.
And if you ever want your show back, just let me know.
No, you're doing a great job. And I hear this all the time. I liked you on there, Phil. Greg, I like Greg too. He has some good guests, and that's the key.
I spoke at Rotary last week, and Vic Laws III, Vic's son, got up and said, yeah, your paper's fine. He goes, but what we really like is you on PAC-14.
Yeah.
Which surprised me.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for all you do.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC-14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.